Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi becomes the first foreign leader to be conferred Bhutan's highest civilian honour, Order of the Droo Galpo, announces a 10,000 crore rupees support to Bhutan in the country's next 5-year plan. US Secretary of State holds talks with Israel's Prime Minister in Tel Aviv in a latest diplomatic push for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and release of hostages. And US lawmakers to vote on a $1.2 trillion spending package as they race to pass it before midnight to avoid a government shutdown. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been conferred the Order of the Droo Galpo by the King of Bhutan. Prime Minister Modi becomes the first foreign head of government to receive Bhutan's highest civilian honour. As per ranking and precedents established, the Order of the Droo Galpo was instituted as the decoration for lifetime achievement and is the pinnacle of the honour system in Bhutan, taking precedence over all orders, decorations and medals. Praising Indian leadership, Bhutan's King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck said, India's future is bright with PM Modi at its helm. He added that Prime Minister Modi has serious responsibilities with global implications. Accepting the Order of the Droo Galpo, Prime Minister Modi said relations between India and Bhutan are going in the right direction as their aspirations are similar. He said Bhutan has given the world a visionary concept of gross national happiness.
कि भारत उनका परिवार है, हमारे संबंध अटूट है, हमारी मित्रता अटूट है, हमारा आपसी सहयोग अटूट है और सबसे बड़ी बात है हमारा विश्वास भी अटूट है.
PM Modi also announced a 10,000 crore rupees support to Bhutan in its next 5-year plan and assured the country of rail, air and water connectivity.
हमेशा की तरह भूटान सरकार की 13वीं पंचवर्षीय योजना के लिए भी हमारा पूरा सहयोग और समर्थन रहेगा. मैं भूटान के मेरे भाई बहनों के बीच ये घोषणा भी करना चाहता हूं कि अगले 5 वर्षों में भारत सरकार इस दिशा में 10,000 करोड़ रुपए का सहयोग करेगी. हमारे रिश्तों की घनिष्ठता का आधार B2B के साथ साथ P2P भी है.
Giving further impetus to India-Bhutan ties, PM Modi held talks with the King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck. Renewing commitment to the special and unique India-Bhutan friendship, both leaders reviewed the bilateral ties and discussed ways to take them to new levels. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart Tshering Tobgay presided over a ceremony for exchange of agreements in Thimphu. Both sides inked 7 agreements in their presence. Prime Minister Modi is on a 2-day state visit to Bhutan. And PM Modi was very warmly welcomed in Thimphu. Locals lined up on the roads to catch a glimpse of the Indian Prime Minister. School children were also an excited lot, as Amritpal Singh reports.
As Prime Minister Modi landed here in Bhutan this Friday morning at about 9:30 a.m., the Prime Minister was received by the Prime Minister of Bhutan, Shering Tobgay, who just concluded a 5-day visit to India. The Prime Minister from Paro to Thimphu traveled by road, which is about 50 kilometers of distance, and you can see little children, people, the commoners, common Bhutanese, carrying Indian flags, Bhutanese flags in their hands, lined up to receive Prime Minister and catch a glimpse of Prime Minister Modi. Given the fact that the Indian Prime Minister is hugely popular here amongst the Bhutanese, this 2-day state visit of Prime Minister Modi is expected to entail a lot of discussions on the bilateral relations and taking them to the next level. With cameraman Praveen Johar, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Thimphu.
All right, moving on. India begins Operation Indra to evacuate its nationals from violence-affected Haiti. So far, 12 Indians have been evacuated from Haiti to the Dominican Republic. Taking to X, India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar said, and I quote, India begins Operation Indra to evacuate its nationals from Haiti to the Dominican Republic. 12 Indians evacuated, fully committed to the security and well-being of our nationals abroad, thank the government of the Dominican Republic for their support, unquote. Amid violence and looting in the Caribbean nation, India had set up a control room and an emergency helpline to evacuate distressed Indian nationals. Haiti has been under a state of emergency after some armed groups attacked the country's largest prison earlier this month, killing and injuring police and prison staff and enabling some 3,500 inmates to escape. All right, let's now get you the latest on what's happening in India in the run-up to the world's largest democratic election. The Bharatiya Janata Party has released the fourth list of its candidates for the upcoming general election. The fourth list includes the names of 15 candidates for the Lok Sabha seats across Puducherry and Tamil Nadu. The names of candidates also announced for one assembly seat each in Tamil Nadu and Tripura. Meanwhile, the opposition Congress party is to meet on Friday to finalize its candidates for Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, holding elections in a country as vast and diverse as India is a Herculean task. It's a report that takes you through the challenges and arrangements deployed to conduct polling in India in a seamless manner.
This is India, the largest democracy in the world with a population of over 1.3 billion and spread over an area of 3.287 million square kilometers. But to keep the democracy up and running, a nation needs to have an elaborate democratic process or an election system. And to conduct election that has all the elements of freedom and fairness, an elaborate and institutionalized security mechanism is imperative. When it comes to security, comprehensive set of measures are taken by the Election Commission of India, the apex electoral authority, to make sure the electoral process is smooth and safe. The world's largest electoral exercise this time in India will witness deployment of 340,000 personnel from the various central armed police forces to ensure free and fair polling across the nation. The Election Commission has asked India's Ministry of Home Affairs to provide 3,400 companies of CAPFs or Central Armed Police Forces for deployment in a phased manner. About 340,000 paramilitary personnel will be deployed during the upcoming general elections and assembly polls in the Indian states of Arunachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and Sikkim. Prior to this, 2019, general elections in India saw one of the largest deployment of paramilitary and security personnel. In a letter, the Home Ministry has urged the chairman of Railway Board to make available adequate rolling stocks to ensure movement of forces to perform election duties. Measures by the ECI revolve around ensuring safety of polling stations, election officials and safety of voters from potential threats such as violence, intimidation or sabotage. Deploying law enforcement personnel and paramilitary forces to maintain law and order during the electoral process. Conducting risk assessments and implementing security measures in sensitive or conflict-prone areas. Electoral fraud prevention, such as preventing voter frauds like impersonation, multiple voting, bogus voting. Monitoring the distribution and storage of EVMs and voter lists to prevent tampering. The ECI is also responsible for implementing measures such as voter identification, indelible ink, and strict verification procedures to ensure the integrity of the voting process. Risk assessment is also a major step in the pre-election journey for the Election Commission of India. Cybersecurity is also kept in check to prevent misleading or threatening content. The ECI collaborates with cybersecurity agencies and experts to ward off any hacking attempts and enhance the resilience of election infrastructure. So how does the ECI manage various security challenges during elections in India? During general elections in India, the ECI adopts a multi-layered approach that combines preventive measures, law enforcement efforts, technology-enabled solutions, and stakeholder engagement to safeguard the integrity and credibility of the electoral process. Antra Sinha for DD India.
Right, moving on, the Rouse Avenue Court in Delhi reserved its order on Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's remand on Friday. Kejriwal was earlier produced in the court in connection with an excise policy case. Special Judge Kaveri Baveja heard the arguments in the Rouse Avenue Court. The Enforcement Directorate has sought a 10-day custody of Kejriwal. India's Economic Intelligence Agency, the ED, on Thursday arrested Kejriwal. It is investigating allegations that a liquor policy implemented by his government in 2022 gave undue advantage to private retailers. The Enforcement Directorate, which is investigating the money laundering angle in the case, had issued 9 summons to Kejriwal for questioning. Take a look now at a timeline of the summons by ED to Kejriwal. In November 2021, the Delhi government implemented a new excise policy. By July 2022, the Chief Secretary reported violations, prompting the Lieutenant Governor to recommend a CBI investigation. The CBI then raided Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia's residence. The ED filed a money laundering case, which led to the arrest of Manish Sisodia. AAP leader Sanjay Singh was also arrested. The ED sent the first summons to Kejriwal in October 2023, which was skipped by him. Kejriwal skipped subsequent summons too. Later, Kejriwal moved the Delhi High Court against ED, but he did not get any relief. Kejriwal skipped the 9th summons leading to his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate. Now, in view of protests by the Aam Aadmi Party, the Delhi police has beefed up security measures in the central part of the city. Heavy personnel deployment and multi-layer barricading are in place in the area where AAP members have gathered to hold a sit-in against Kejriwal's arrest. Paramilitary personnel equipped with anti-riot gear were stationed to ensure law and order. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. The Indian Space Research Organization achieved a new milestone as it successfully carried out the landing mission of its reusable launch vehicle named Pushpak. This mission successfully simulated the approach and high-speed landing conditions of the RLV returning from space. Mumbai Airport Customs has busted a smuggling operation of foreign currency, diamonds and gold. It recovered cash and valuables worth $1.3 million US. Indian Railways has rolled out 540 additional trains in the festive season of Holi. The special services are to ensure smooth and comfortable travel to passengers. Crowd management at major stations is being prioritized. And still to come on DD India Live. Russia launches the largest missile and drone attack on Ukraine's energy grid, hits the country's largest dam, causes blackouts in several regions. Foreign and Defence Ministers of Australia and the United Kingdom meet in Adelaide for annual talks. And the UN General Assembly unanimously adopts the first global resolution on artificial intelligence.
You said that Indian ethos and conceptualization of society, nation, state, governance, all these fundamental concepts of public life. You said that they are distinct and they are quite different and drawn from our traditions.
Our rise should be not just a photocopy of a Western or European nation, but India should rise as its own real identity, which we call it Bharat.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To West Asia now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has returned to Israel for another round of tough conversations with Netanyahu as diplomatic efforts ramp up. Blinken met the Israeli Prime Minister in Tel Aviv as he arrived in Israel on Friday after a visit to Cairo and Saudi Arabia in a further push to reach a ceasefire deal between the Palestinian militant group Hamas and Israel. The stop in Tel Aviv caps Blinken's sixth round of shuttle diplomacy in the region since the 7th October Hamas attacks in Israel. Israel's spy chief David Barnea will travel to Qatar on Friday to meet mediators trying to secure a Gaza ceasefire that would include a hostage release. Barnea will meet with his U.S. counterpart, CIA Director Bill Burns, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, and Egypt's intelligence chief Abbas Kamal. The U.S. has planned to put a resolution calling for an immediate truce in Gaza to a vote of the UN Security Council, intensifying pressure on its ally. Washington, D.C. is a traditional ally of Israel. It has incrementally applied more pressure to its longtime ally, and the draft UN Security Council resolution marks a further toughening. The shift has coincided with rising global condemnation of the 5-month-old war, Palestinian civilian deaths, domestic political opposition to U.S. President Joe Biden's stance, and the prospect of a man-made famine in Gaza. The new resolution expresses support for the talks in Khesar, freeing of Israeli hostages, and the release of Palestinians detained in Israeli jails. To pass in the Security Council, a resolution needs at least 9 votes in favor and no veto by the US, France, Britain, Russia or China. The European Union leaders have also issued a call for an immediate ceasefire. Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles and Foreign Minister Penny Wong on Friday hosted annual talks with their British counterparts, Foreign Secretary David Cameron and Defence Secretary Grant Shapps in Adelaide. The Australia-United Kingdom ministerial consultations comes after British firm BAE, together with local naval firm ASC, were chosen to build submarines under the AUKUS Security Pact. The treaty signed on Thursday requires the two nations to consult each other if they come under threat and will see Australia buy up to 5 nuclear submarines from Washington, D.C. in the early 2030s before jointly building and operating a new class SSN AUKUS with Britain roughly a decade afterwards. When asked whether the election of Donald Trump would endanger the AUKUS military lines, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron said the UK would work with whomever becomes US president in November. Leaders of the 27 European Union member states are debating supplying military aid to Ukraine using profits from frozen Russian assets. $200 billion worth of Russian assets are expected to generate $13 to $14 billion by 2027. But the idea may not reach a consensus, as DD India's Ishan Garg reports from Brussels.
Leaders of the 27 European Union member states are meeting here in Brussels for day 2 of the European Council summit, and one of the things that's going to be on top of their agenda is the idea to use profits generated from frozen Russian assets in the West to buy military supplies for Ukraine. Now, about some $200 billion worth of assets are frozen in the West, and about $170 billion of that money is here in Brussels, stored in a clearing facility called Euroclear. Analysts expect that this money can generate roughly 13 to 14 billion euros in profits by 2027, and this is a pot of money that the European Union leaders are considering using to purchase military supplies for Ukraine. Now, on day 1, there wasn't any consensus on if this plan is going to go ahead. It had been proposed by the European Commission, but there are now concerns that it could be seen as a sign of escalation. Reports have suggested that there are countries like Germany and Austria which are concerned about this proposal from a cost perspective, but there are other countries like Slovakia and Hungary which are seen to be closer to Russia, which may see this as a sign of things escalating from the European Union side, and which is why they may not be in support of this idea. But at the same time, the European Union leaders, especially the foreign chief of the European Commission, has said that Ukraine desperately needs this pot of money. Same calls have been coming from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So it's hard to say at this point if there is going to be a consensus, but this is going to be an item right at the top of the agenda on day 2 of the European Council summit. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Russia has launched the largest missile and drone attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure in the conflict to date on Friday. Russia fired 88 missiles and 63 Shahed drones, leaving at least 1 dead and 14 wounded. While Ukraine said almost half the missiles and drones were shot down, leading to less damage. The locations targeted included a dam in the southern city of Zaporizhia, which suffered strikes to its hydraulic structures and the dam itself. However, there was no risk of a breach. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attack and said there was work underway to repair power supply in 9 regions. Across the Atlantic, U.S. lawmakers are set to vote on a $1.2 trillion spending package on Friday as they race to pass it before midnight to avoid a government shutdown. The sprawling measure, wrapping 6 bills, covers funding for over half the government, including the Department of Homeland Security, Pentagon, and health agencies for the next 6 months until the end of the fiscal year. DD India's Kate Fisher has more from Washington, D.C.
Lawmakers here are already 6 months behind schedule on this because of lengthy negotiations to resolve funding and policy disputes. Now, they have scant time to approve the bill before a shutdown deadline this weekend. Republican leaders in the lower chamber, the House of Representatives, have signalled that they intend to hold a vote on Friday, bypassing a self-imposed rule requiring lawmakers be given at least 72 hours to review legislation before it comes up for a vote. There could be additional hurdles in the Senate, that's the upper chamber, where any one lawmaker's objection could prolong debate and delay a final vote. But as long as lawmakers act before Monday, the effects of a shutdown could be minimal, since many federal workers at unfunded agencies would be off for the weekend anyway. But if a closure goes on longer, there could be more problems. It could disrupt tax filing season, as more than half of the staff at the Internal Revenue Service would face furloughs. Border Patrol officers and around 1.3 million active duty military service members would have to work without pay. A previous shutdown sparked national travel delays after many Transportation Security Administration screeners called in sick as a protest. Even if a shutdown is avoided, credit ratings agencies have warned that Congress's repeated brinkmanship could hurt the US government's creditworthiness in the long run. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
The United Nations General Assembly on Thursday unanimously adopted the first global resolution on artificial intelligence. It comes and aims to encourage protecting personal data, monitoring AI for risks, and safeguarding human rights.
In a groundbreaking event, all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly unanimously adopted the first global resolution on artificial intelligence on Thursday. The non-binding resolution encourages the protection of personal data, monitoring AI for risks, and the safeguarding of human rights. Proposed by the United States and co-sponsored by China and 121 other nations, the resolution seeks to close the digital gap within and between nations while using AI to augment shared priorities around sustainable development.
This technology has the potential to unlock more progress on more issues for more people. But in order to ensure equitable access to these benefits and mitigate risks for communities across the globe, we must approach this technology as a global community, leaving no one behind.
Governments around the world are seeking to shape AI's development amid fears of its potential to disrupt democratic processes, turbocharge fraud, spread misinformation, or lead to dramatic job losses, among other harms.
Today, as the UN and AI finally intersect, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to choose as one united global community to govern this technology rather than let it govern us. So let us reaffirm that AI will be created and deployed through the lens of humanity and dignity, safety and security, human rights and fundamental freedoms.
The resolution marks the beginning of a collective journey as countries around the world come together to shape safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence systems. Deidre Basumatari for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.